let you guys know that we are presenting on the quiz tool today. And we go to the quiz tool to basically assess students' learning, and they go to review how they've mastered a quiz in your course. Okay, there are a series of steps to the quiz tool, so I would like for each of you to pay close attention to how I go through the quiz process of talking to you about the question library and the managed quiz page. Okay. The first thing that I want to talk about is best practices of the quiz tool. When you start your best practices moments with your quiz tool, what will happen is you will either take start your quizzes in two formats. You will either tell me, Kim, I will build my own quizzes, or you would say, I have some test banks files from the publisher. And to me, basically, as a adjunct and a trainer and working in digital learning, the quiz tool from the quiz test banks files from the publisher is an awesome relief to your process of creating your quizzes in your courses. Okay, so you want to make sure if you decide to use publisher test banks files, you want to request in this manner. You want to say to your publishers, do you have any test bank files that are compatible to D2L or Blackboard to import and to import into D2L, and they will know exactly what you're talking about. Most of the publishers out there, they have test banks files for each of your textbooks. Either you will have an integrated piece where you will have your students go in to take quizzes, which is fine. But for those who do not use publisher integration platforms, you do have the ability to make sure you take advantage of the resources they have for the non-users of the integration platform, which is good. Because, for example, in the reading course, I went to Townsend Press and I exported their quizzes and I imported them into D2L. So everything that I do is inside of D2L rather than inside of Townsend Press. Okay, so I kind of built that class around Townsend Press materials by using the textbook, their quizzes, their videos, everything that I have. I pulled it over and paused in the event that something happens to me and the department can get a hold of emails and they can go in and look at quizzes that students may have said that they didn't earn a correct grade on, rather than having to frustrate them being frustrated having to go into a publisher platform and gain access, which we don't have access to as a digital learning team. We don't have access to your integrations. Neither do we have access to your login credentials. So that's basically on you and the publisher if a student has a complaint. That's why oftentimes when we receive tickets regarding quizzes, we can't go in there and look at the students' quizzes. We can only handle the quizzes and assist and support students and you by having your quizzes inside of Pause. So it makes it easier on you. It also makes it easier on the college as a whole. In that by way of allowing the digital learning team to go in and to assess your quizzes and say, no, your faculty, your instructor need to turn this on, or they didn't turn that on, or they forgot to select this feature or that feature, and we can assist them, but we cannot do it inside of a publisher platform. So, and I guess I'm talking so fast, I need to slow down. Um, so the two ways that you can have your quizzes created in a course is you create them yourself, and I'll show you the steps, and through a publisher. You request test bank files, which is an awesome way. So at the end of this session, you will know how to create a quiz. You will also know how to I will show you emails requesting how faculty send me their import files. You can do it both ways, either through a ticket system or via email. And between Teresa and myself, we'll be working with the import pieces. But as soon as I receive import files from you and your publisher, I immediately put that as a priority in my email, and I'll go ahead and import it in your course because I know you're waiting for that content to be available for your students before the start of class. Okay, and then you will also learn how to manage your quizzes based on restrictions, dates, and special attempts, how to randomize and give them uh, a number of times to take the quiz. So, and I want to put this out there too. Remember, at the end of this session, I always try to remember to tell you to go into the OTC training if you have not done so already, and go ahead and take your quiz after your session. So by now, you should have taken your gradebook, your content, and today after the quiz tool, you take your quiz test today. Okay. So as you can see from my homepage, I'm going to go here to assessments and click on quizzes. When you arrive on the Manage Quiz page, you will see these tabs: New Quiz, Edit Categories, and More Actions, okay? This is what your quiz page look like when before you import quizzes or start creating quizzes. So the question library for best practices. This is where the question library is kind of like a flash drive in a sense. It houses all your questions from your publisher. And this is where you start to build your quizzes. You don't start in the manage quiz area. Okay, you don't start here. You can't even possibly, you can start here, but what will happen when you start here, you don't have a backup plan in here in the event the quiz is lost. So when I train you, I always want you to understand that for best practices, you start in the question library first, meaning you build your questions in the back of the system, the quiz tool, the library area. And once you build all your quizzes, then you can create random questions. You can randomize your questions to protect the integrity of your quiz. Building your quiz from the quiz page, that means your questions do not live in the library. And oftentimes faculty make that mistake and they say, oh, I'm gonna go ahead and build me a quiz. And what they do, they start here on the managed quiz page, and they just click on the new quiz and they start naming it, and then they'll go here to add edit questions. And when they start adding questions, that you don't have the ability to pull from the library because you didn't start there. You always want to start here first. So that's the great thing. Now, if a publisher if I import some files and the publisher quizzes land on the quiz page, that's different. We'll show you how to go in and move them back there. But for the most part, I like when publishers create quizzes that go to the question library because it allows you to randomize them. Okay, so as always, I like to demonstrate and show you the quiz and what it looks like. So I'm going to go here to a live course. And this is what it looks like when you go to a question library. So this is the question library for the reading course. If you'll notice, I have folders for each skill that I need them to learn. Okay, this is how you want to keep your question library. You want to make sure everything that you create, all your questions are inside this folder. So if I click on this folder, I have a folder within the folder, and it has different levels of exercises that I can use that's associated with the vocabulary skill. And all this information came from the publisher. This is nothing that I sat down and created. It's too much, basically. So if you look closely here, I clicked on that folder within the question library, and a lot of these questions that the students take, that they're pulled from here. Okay, you'll notice that there are 10 questions here. And what happened, and if you look over here to the right of the questions, you'll see the question type. These are multiple choice questions. That's what that means. But I'll show you also the different types of questions later on how you can build the types of questions. And then it's worth 10 points. And then the difficulty level is 1, which, you don't really need to consider that unless it's a math course or something like that. But for the most part, you want to make sure that your question library is designed in a fashion where it is nice and clean, and your questions live within a folder, because it starts to look very bad if all these were just questions and you don't know what those questions were and where they are and what chapter they're associated with. You don't want to have it that way. And a lot of times, depending on the subject, you have so many different chapters in your that's associated with your content. You want to make sure that your folders are there. That's most important for each skill. And could you imagine, with the topics that I have, all the topics that I have, it's if each one of these topics had questions just living out here, this would not be a clean slate. So it's clean because I have 49 sections of information within a folder. Okay, and you don't want that. So I'm gonna click done editing. And and this is the managed quiz page and what it looks like when quizzes are built. Okay, so the quizzes are built and the students can see when their quizzes are available. So this is the live course where students have taken the test, 22 out of 22. When me having 25 students, I knew that as time go on, there would be a decrease in the quiz level. But sometimes students miss quizzes for various reasons, or they forgot to take the quiz for whatever reason. But for the most part, you always want to see these double numbers, 14 out of 14. So that means 5 out of 5 students have taken the critical thinking. So we started this week and it will end Sunday. So by Sunday, I should have 14 or 15 quizzes. And then next week, they'll start working on their practice quizzes, which they cannot see. We talked about that hidden invisible feature yesterday in content. So, and this is what you want your quiz page to look like. If I go in here and click on, let's say, my favorite module, purpose and tone, we'll click here. And if you look closely, before I start showing you how to build a quiz, this is how it looks. I would start by creating the name, purpose, and tone. I would list my category, but oftentimes you really don't have to, because the dates will help you categorize your quizzes based on when you list them week by week. Okay, but it's, whatever meets your comfort level, you can add categories if you like. I did it within that category, and I'll go back and show you later. So if you look down here, there's a lot going on. Typically, you would start here in the question library in the add edit question. Once you start building your questions in the library, then you will create a random section, and then this is where all these questions came from. They came from the question library. So out of 20 questions, although I had maybe 500, I pulled 20 that was associated, with true and false and multiple choice, where I didn't have to grade and do short answer questions and remember to grade those. So I just selected true and false and multiple choice associated with this particular module. And although I have 10 questions, but out of 20, they won't get the same questions over. And I do give my students 2 attempts, because they don't see the same questions. They may see 2 or 3 of the same, but for the most part, they won't see, the same questions again. And as you scroll down, you can look carefully. I turned on the description, and what that means is I'm giving them instructions on what the quiz, what they need to do in order to take the quiz and be successful in the quiz. So you don't, oftentimes faculty miss this piece. And I want to reiterate that you must have instructions in there for each chapter as you build them. Even if you get them from the publisher, like the publisher didn't provide me with specific instructions. So I had to go in as a student and look to see, wow, if I just knew the name of the quiz and all I knew I needed to take it, but where are my instructions? So I had to go back in, not look at it from Kim's lens or the trainer's lens or the developer's lens. I had to look at it from the student's perspective. So this is why I have instructions in here for them. And then I also add them here as well to double so they can see it twice. And after that, once I put that in, I click save. And I don't touch any other feature other than the description, the intro, and then the introduction piece here. I'll just make sure those 2 are covered. Okay, and then the restrictions tool tab, excuse me, I set restrictions and I make it easier on myself and I do it week by week. I started uh, on the 30th at 12 a.m. just in case those that are up late and want to take their quiz, first thing in the morning. I give them the ability to do that within a 24-hour span. Regardless of how much time I give them, you want to give them 24 hours. I had once experienced, we have experienced where faculty would turn on the quiz on the 30th at 12 a.m. and then they would end it on the 30th at 12 p.m. That's not good. That's not fair. That's not best practices for the tool or good for student success. You want to give them a 24-hour span, a whole day, actually, to take a quiz um, and complete an assignment, no matter how much time you give them. So, when you look at things from a student's perspective, you will always know that this is the right thing to do for the student to turn it on at 12 a.m., give them a week or however to finish their readings, their discussions, and their quizzes, and you give them to 11:59 p.m. That's standard across the state, how we use this tool. So make sure any assignment that you create, whether it's a discussion, an assignments tool, which is formerly known as the Dropbox, or the quiz tool, you make sure you set your date at 11:59 p.m. for best practices. And again, if I click here, this goes in the calendar. Remember, I talked about that course calendar and the content tool that they strive on using that because they look for it. They depend on that information to be available for them, so they'll know how to take their quiz and when it's due. They depend on those due dates. Okay, and then as you continue to scroll down, um, the timing. What you want to do here, you want to always enforce the timing. Typically, it's by default, it has a recommended time limit feature turned on, but you want to turn on the enforced time limit. This is where they see the clock and they know how much time and progress they have. And how I typically allow my students the allotted times, I take the quiz myself. So, as the subject matter expert, what I do, I take the quiz and see how long it takes me. So if it takes me 20 minutes or 10 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever, however long it takes me, I give them at least 30 to 35 minutes extra plus a 5-minute grace period. So within that time, you want to make sure you understand that students are not subject matter experts. They're trying to become that. So you can't think because if I take the quiz in 20 minutes or 15 minutes that they can do it too. So you got to give them at least 30 to 35 minutes more to take their exam. And that's how you come up with this figure. And these times here, after the grace period flag the quiz attempts exceeded time limit, I always try to train to teach you guys prevent the students from making further changes because that helps you as the instructors, that alleviate problems for my team to have to go into your course and figure things out and answer questions for your students. So if you turn this prevent the students from making further changes when they're taking their quizzes, they will you won't have too many issues going on in your course. But if you allow them to continue working or you allow the students to continue working but you give them a zero extended beyond the deadline, that's not good. So you don't want to allow them to take the test and then get a zero, right? And you also do not want them to continue working and then you have all these red flags everywhere throughout your quiz tool. So if you turn this on, that will prevent a lot of the red flags to appear. This special access feature This special access feature allows you to accommodate students with learning challenges more so than any other student. But then you will have a student or so that will say they had a death or they had to take the kids to the hospital or whatever. They're going on vacation. And what you do is you make that decision with the student and you tell them on the front end that you will give them special access to the quiz, but they would need to make sure they take it in a timely manner. But for the most part, let me find a quiz. I should have a quiz that's already have the special access feature turned on. Let me go in here and click on this. So I want you to see it first so you'll know what it looks like. Okay, here's a good one. So I was sent some papers on a student with some learning challenges. So I had to go in and click here and click on her name, and then I had to give her the allotted extra time that she needed. So this is what it looks like. Whatever you do, do not delete this. Okay, you keep this here because you want to, if she's come back and she said that she wanted to take the quiz again and she just forgot to take it or whatever her reasons were, you want to make sure you have not only this as documentation, you want to also take that second access that you and her just discussed, and you scroll down and you select her name again. What was her name? Yolanda, per page. So if I wanted to select another student or whatever, I would click the student's name, right? And when I click the student's name, I will add special access. When I add that special access, that will entail me going into the special access feature. I shouldn't have left out. Before I even select her name, I'll go here and set some dates, right? And she would get more time to take the exam. Where is that? Oh, right here. So if it takes 45 minutes to take for the regular students to take the test, quite naturally, I would change that to 75. And then I would go down and I would select the student's name. When I select the student's name, and then I click Add Special Access. And that's how this piece came about here at the bottom with Yolanda. So I was able to give her the time and a half for that. Okay, let's go up to the assessment feature. This is the fun part with the assessment features. This part allows you to automatically link your quizzes to the gradebook. Okay, so when you first arrive on this tab, you will see these three items: the automatic grade, the grade item, and the auto export. Remember when I told you it's important to build your gradebook first? So I would go here and I would select each quiz that I created for my gradebook and start aligning it with my quizzes. And that's how the quiz and the quiz and the gradebook is associated. So I would turn this feature on, automatic attempts to be set as graded upon completion. What that means is as soon as the students takes the quizzes, they have the ability to see their grade. Okay. And then I need to make sure that I turn this feature on. And if I don't have a grade item, this feature will not be available to me. So once you select the grade item from your grade book and you align it and you select auto export to grade book, you click set and then you set your attempts. Your attempts can be, I've seen 1 to 2 attempts, and the most I've seen in use is unlimited 1 and 2. In unlimited, you use those for practice quizzes, okay? And then some faculty decide to give students 1 attempts, like I give them 1 attempts on their uh, final exam, but I give them unlimited attempts on their practice test, which is coming up next week. But for the weekly quizzes, I give them 2 attempts to take them so they can continue to have extra practice. And I set my overall grade calculation to the highest, meaning if they take it a second time and they earned a 90 the first time and they take it a second time and they made a mistake and earned a 70, the system will automatically accept the highest grade. Because sometimes students will take a test, and when they take the test, they do pretty good. So they go back in and say, okay, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna see if I can make 100 on the second attempt. And what they don't realize, they won't get the same questions. And that's why sometimes their grade drops because they don't remember the question or they just didn't get the questions right. So to benefit them and for us to have less headaches, I don't use any of these features or average or any of that, because if a student earned a 70 on the first attempt and 90 on the second attempt, then the system is averaging that. That's not benefiting the student. So Our recommendations for best practices, we use the highest attempt when we are setting our restrictions for the quizzes. Okay. And remember, again, anything that you see that I'm not discussing, it is not the basics. They're not the basic functionality of the tools. So I won't get into that. It's like I mentioned yesterday, it's information overload. And I only want to cover the things that you're going to use for basic concepts in your course. So again, with the assessment feature, you want to make sure you have the automatic grade turned on. You select your grade item by making sure your grade book is built first with your syllabus. And when you build your grade book, you will have the ability when you start creating discussions, when you start creating your quizzes, and you start creating your Dropbox assignments, you can automatically, when it comes to grade item, you can automatically select that item from the grade book. And then this feature here will be turned on. And then you continue to go down and select your attempts, and your attempts basically will be based on your content of your course. Everyone does not give two attempts, and that's okay. It's nothing wrong with that. But whatever meets your comfort level, that's what you use for your course based on the content and the level of your course. So for 0810 students, yes, I will give them two attempts based on the subject. Now, when they get to English, McBride or Margie may not turn that on. They may give their students one attempt on an assignment. So it varies throughout the content and throughout the course. We're not going to talk about the objectives, but we're going to go here to submission views. Submission views is good for students, okay, because they like to see what questions they missed. They have 10 questions and they earned an 80. What this does is shows them what they missed. And it's all about how you set the default setting view of the submission feature. Okay, this is here by default. Okay, and what you want to do, you want to turn, if you want your students to see their questions, you click yes. And then you want them to show answers, questions answered incorrectly. You would select show questions answered incorrectly. And then you want to show the score out of, and then you click save. Okay, my students never worry about that. They never ask me. So it all depends. When the students start taking those higher level courses, they want to know what they miss. Now, if a student asks me what they miss, yeah, I'll have a meeting with them and I'll tell them what they miss. And if I get too many ask me, what I'll do is I'll go and just turn it on. But for the most part, depending on your subject, you can turn it on or you can turn it off. And the reason I don't turn it on is because I give them two attempts. And what they can do is take the quiz, and although I have one per page, questions one per page, they can still print 10 pages and have the questions in front of them. And now my questions are, I've lost the integrity of my quizzes because I allowed this feature kind of to be on, in a sense, with my two attempts. Now, if you have one attempts, yes, you can turn it on because that's all they will get from you. But in two attempt cases, you want to make certain that you be careful about turning this feature on, because they have some little smart ways of going in and gaining access to those questions and keeping them. So just keep that in mind when you're using this feature. And then all I would do is click save to just, yes, show them the answers they got incorrectly. Okay. And okay. So, but anyway, so out of all the tabs, when you start creating a quiz, you will deal with the properties tab. In the beginning, like I showed you, you would name your quiz. If you had categories, you would choose them. And these questions here that are random, why did that get that way? We'll go back because that's supposed to be random. Yeah. So wherever you see that purple line and you see the random naming, that means the quizzes are random. Okay. So you always want to see that. So you work with the properties tab, naming, categories. This is where these purple lines here, when I put the number 1 in here and click apply, that's what makes the purple lines appear. That means that when students take this quiz, they see the quiz 1 per page as such. So Now, for us, we get to see the answers and see it, but for the most part, their quiz are taken one per page. They will see one question per page when this feature is turned on. And all you do is put a 1 in here and click apply, and then they will divide those lines for you. That's what turns on those purple lines. And if I wanted to edit the questions, I just leave them 1 points each, 10 out of 10, which equals 100 anyway. If I needed to edit the value and to change it to 5 points a piece or 2 points a piece, you can easily go here to edit values. First, let me take this out. I can go to edit values. And when I go to edit values, this will appear, and I can easily change that 1 to a 2. And then it will be 20 out of 20. But to keep it simple, I just do 10 out of 10. Put that 1 back. And let me see, what else did I need to cover? And then you go on to your next tab, restrictions. And this is where you set your dates. Okay. And you must display it in the calendar. I'm not sure why it's turned on, but I thought I turned it on. And you enforce your time, prevent from making further changes. And if you have a student that has special access, you will make sure that you turn this feature on. You don't change these two, but you just click this and turn this on, and then you can set the student with challenges that have some learning challenges, excuse me. In the assessment tab, auto grade, you do the grade item, the export to grades, and then you set your attempts and click save. And you don't continue until you do your submission views. So basically, these are the most important tabs when you create a quiz. And then your submission views, or that's your option if you want to use that. Okay. So let me go back to the quiz page itself. And what these things here mean, if you hover over it, it tells you that it's connected to the gradebook. So every one of my quizzes should have that feature except the practice. The practice does not have this little ribbon grade item feature because they take it unlimited times. Okay, they have the ability to do that. And what else? This little key here, that means it's special access been granted. I'm not sure why those are skipped, but anyway. This is where you can go. If you look here, I have a category called diagnostic, and then I have the diagnostic test. I created a category called module exercise quizzes, and then I just lined my quizzes up. And then I did a practice quiz, and then I did a module called test, module category called test, and then I created a competency final exam for the students. So when you're looking at this quiz, it's nice and neat. You see the fact, you see where students have published and taken their quizzes, and they were only published because of the settings I made. When I went here and I clicked on assessments and allowed it to be associated with the gradebook. These three features here turns on the quiz grading, and it exports their score directly to the gradebook so they can see their score immediately upon completion. Okay, so this is what the quiz page basically looks like. And then you can go here and look at statistics of your course and how they've taken the quiz questions based on the average by module quizzes. So you can see my averages, they're not too bad within the learning environment. Let me see if I click on a good one, vocabulary. Okay, they like that one. And then you can go here and you can look at the students what they made, right? And then you can also go here and see the question stats and how they were divvied out based on their question type. So if I see a question that is very, very low, I will go in here and do an assessment of this question and find out why is it at 75% and why this one is at 75%, and try to make some adjustment with that question. And I can easily look at the question and see what it is by clicking on it. And it may be something confusing to the student about this question, or they just didn't know the definition. Okay. So, and then the last thing you can see is questions details. Okay, it gives you the questions details. if you needed to do a report in your course about your students or just do an overall assessment of your questions, this is here and available to you, and you can export it out by using an export to Excel file. Okay, and you can set the dates if you really needed that information. So this is good information for each quiz. So I'll go back to the Manage Quiz page. Go to one more thing, the drop down. You'll notice here in the drop down, like I talked about yesterday, there are features that we use and there are features that we do not use. So the edit feature is just like clicking on it. So if you want to just edit the quiz, you can simply just click on the link or go to the drop down and click on edit. If you wanted to hide the quiz from the users, students, you just click on this feature. You click on hide and it will hide it. If you want to preview the quiz, you can preview it, delete it. And this is the piece that I really wanted you guys to see. Let's go back. So you can see how these attempts were made. Okay, this is what they earned when they took their attempt. She made a 60 the first time, and then she came back and made the 70. And that's what that highest score meant when I showed you in the restrictions area. The system automatically accepted their highest grade. So she got a 70%. Now, if I needed to go in here and check out what went on with her quiz, if they had a problem with the quiz questions, you can go in here and look at their quiz attempt. And when you arrive on their page, you can kind of scroll down and look at each question and see what they missed, right? And see how they did. This is basically what happens. So they were real generic questions, basic questions that I needed them to know about the course as a course introduction. So I made up some questions for this particular quiz. And if they paid close attention and read the module topics, they would have done very well on the quiz. Now, let's just say if you had a problem and a student was complaining about the quiz and their lights turned off or this or that, you can go here to Quizzes Event Log. And when you click on Quizzes Event Log, it will show you, this will show you what they did time by time, minute by minute. It shows you that she took the quiz. She started at 9:51 a.m. and she finished at 9:54. Yeah, some quizzes you can do quick like that, some you can't. But that's what this feature entails. What I'm going to do is go back, use the back feature. And I know some of you are saying, okay, where did she go to get that? The first thing I did when I was on the quiz page, I went to, if you want to see students' grades and see how they did, go here to grades. Okay. Then you will see their attempts. Now, when students make 100 for the first time, they don't bother. Typically, some of them don't. I see she did. Most of them did pretty good on their vocabulary quiz. So this is what it looks like. Once you decide you want to know what happened to this particular student, I thought I saw one that took it 3 times. Or anyway, you want to know what happened to the student. If they, trying to find one that, like if I wanted to know what went on with India, I can go in here and just click on her attempt. Look at what she did and how she did. So she missed a lot of questions, obviously. And if I wanted to know more, I would go to her quiz event log and it will tell me everything that they've done. Typically, the general ed courses and the learning support courses, math courses don't have this issue. The anatomy and physiology and micro classes, they used to have a big issue with this, so they needed that event log. they needed that event log to verify certain things and make a decision whether to allow the students to take the test the second time. So this feature is turned on for that reason, or you use that feature for that reason. Teresa, can you hear Chef?
It's kind of distant sounding, but I am hearing something.
That's him. He has a meeting too. I don't know why he won't go in the other room. Okay, so thank you. Okay. Okay, so Teresa, let me know if that becomes a problem. I'll tell him to go in another room. Okay, so where was I? I don't like to be taken off. So what I'm going to do now, what I'm going to do is show you so I got a hold of him. So what I want to do is show you guys what happens when I receive an email. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take this from sharing this screen and share another screen, okay? So if you look closely, I sent me some files. This is how it works when a faculty is sending me a message regarding, can you please upload a course, some test bank files in my course. What they do, they send me the message, and when they send me the message, all I do is go here. I will either get one file or I would receive, I'm going to test that file so you can see what that's like. Or I would get files like this on all chapters. Can you guys see this? Okay. He said he was sorry, you guys. Okay, so you can see here this particular faculty had 12 chapter quizzes that I needed to import. So oftentimes I would spend my time either at my desk eating a sandwich or something, uploading quizzes, importing quizzes into your course, right? Because sometimes it takes a long time for one quiz to import, depending on what the content is. For example, if you have images in your quizzes, it will take a little longer. Okay, so it's important that we process this quiz by quiz. Whatever you give me, yes, I sat behind the scenes and imported 14 quizzes at one time. This is what me and my team we do. We do this because it's necessary, and there's a lot of behind the scene works that you guys can't even imagine what we do. Okay, so this is part of it. We may receive it in this format, or we may receive it in this format, which is one file, and then we may receive it in another format, which is just the whole course pack. So what I'm going to do is demonstrate to you how this works and what happens when you send me a test bank file. Okay, so I'm going to do, where's the app? I'm going to try this one first, okay? I'm going to go up here and do open and save. And I'm going to save this to okay, so I'm going to save this inside of a course. I'm going to go back to the course. I'm going to go here too. I'm going to save this file so you can see how it works. I'm going to save as, and I'll put bad here. Click save here. Then I'll go to the next, and I'm going to pull save as. I'm going to do chapter 1, and then I'm going to do chapter 2 so that you can just see how it all works and this goes down for us. So now I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and I'm going to go back to the environment. Now I'm going to go to my training course and show you how the import process works. And then I'll show you the next step. I'll show you how to build your quiz. So where is my training course? Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. I got emails and texts coming through. I'm going to go to quizzes. Remember, in the beginning, I told you when you first arrive on your quiz page, if you have nothing in your quiz tool, it will look just like this. You will have nothing in your question library. So now what I'm about to do is go to and import your quiz. Import each of those quizzes that I saved to my desktop. So I'm going to use the import feature. And I'm going to do upload. Go to this PC desktop. Where did I save that to? Okay, so I'm going to pull this quiz first. I'm not sure why it's taking so long. It very well may have images. Okay, so it's ready for me to click on this import all component. So I'm going to click on this. And what you see here is as the system is importing, it lets us know what part is taking place. It uploads, it converts, and then it imports into the environment. Oftentimes, when you have quizzes that we import, if you get 3 green check marks quick, that means that they just have simple questions and no images. Sometimes it takes a little longer. When it takes long like this, it means that it's either a bad import piece or they have images. When it's a bad import piece, as it is, I will take this and do a screenshot of it and contact you and show you this image and tell you to go back to your publisher and ask them to provide you with a test bank file that is compatible with D2L or Brightspace. Oftentimes, they'll think certain things and how you word it to them. They may think that you mean one thing, and I have had that happen several times. So, and oftentimes it doesn't work. So the publisher have to really take time and listen to the faculty and say, okay, this is what you need. And then they'll keep sending files until they send the right one, right? So once I send you this message, there's nothing else I can do for you. It's like a waiting game for us. We wait for you to get back with us, and then we will start the process all over again. And that has happened on several occasions. So now I'm going to go to another quiz test bank file that was provided to me. And I'm going to click on it and do the upload. And I'm going to click on the quiz test bank 1 and do open. And then click import. See, this is what I love to see when I'm importing them. So that means that this was a successful import. So now what we need to do now is go back and check to see where did these questions land. Did it land in the library or did it land on the quiz page? So we do view content and go back to quizzes. And I check all of this before I get back in touch with you, right? So it seems as if it landed in the quiz, on the quiz page, which is okay. And I'm gonna check the library just in case, because I've had publisher that does both. They do the question library and they do the quiz page. Well, unfortunately, this one did not. Okay. So what you would do, number one, is be grateful that you were able to have your chapters imported in successfully. And I would go in and I would take a look at your questions and just look at them and see what they are. Okay. And they live back here in the add edit location. Okay. So these are your questions and they're not in a folder because they came from the publisher. You would have to simply go in. Now, some publishers, they come in that way. Yes, it is in a folder. It's in chapter 1 folder. Sorry about that. But no, it's not. And anyway, let me go to the next one and show you, and then I'll show you how to start building. The quiz has a series of steps, but the most important thing, I wanted you to see how it all works, see what the quizzes look like when they're in action and they're live. Do this last one. Do import, and I'm going to do this course pack and see what happens.
Kim, just want to check and make sure you're still with us. It kind of looks like your screen's frozen.
Oh, no, it's not. I see it on my end. This is what happens with these imports. This is an example, and I needed the faculty to see this. As soon as it flips over to a link, then I'll be ready. But yeah, this particular one, Teresa, it takes that amount of time. And so, bad network quality, calling for call quality. Okay. I get that all the time. So you get an opportunity to experience behind the scene. So when you submit your tickets, sometimes we're waiting for things like this because we're helping another faculty, and oftentimes we can't get out of the screen and let browser to start working on something else, but we like to finish you guys out once we start with you. So this is what we have to contend with, things like this. And I practiced with this particular import piece before, so that's why I know it takes a minute or two to feel sometimes, which is a good thing. So you'll know what really goes on behind the scene when we're trying to make sure you got what you need. You get what you need. Come on. There we go. Patience is a virtue. So what I'm going to do is click on import all. Love to see that those green check marks appear quickly. So now what they're doing is importing the questions into the system. The most of the time, though, this is not the issue. This is not a big issue, but depending on, like I said before, what the course is, if it's an anatomy course or if it's a technology course that have images, big images in there, this is what happens when you have images in your files. And those that attend the on-ground training when we were back in school, this is what they would have to experience in the lab when I'm in training. They would see how it works, and then it gives them a sense of understanding of the detailed work we do behind the scenes. Come on. We have good timing too. Okay. You guys bear with me. I needed you to see this. Okay. I guess it doesn't seem as long when you're in the lab than it does when you're just sitting here. There it is. Wonderful. So now I'm going to view content, go back to the quiz, and then let's see what they provided us. They provided us with all the chapters, pre-tests, post-tests, data activities. All this information is what they provided. Videos. So that's why it took so long. Okay. And this is great publisher material. So what you would do as a faculty, it is your responsibility once we tell you that your test bank file has successfully imported into the learning environment. We will tell you, please go check your course files. And it's your responsibility to go through all these chapters and determine what it is that you want to use. My recommendation as an adjunct, I keep everything they provide me with. Okay. If I know I want to use certain pre-test, post-test video clips, whatever, I will keep those available for the students. But those that I want, I will immediately hide it from them and keep all this in my master copy each term, right? Um, so it's important that you keep the learning material and you decide on what you want. So let's go back to the question library and see that they put it back there for us as well. And they did. See, this is great. I don't know who this publisher was, but this is a great publisher. They not only provided your quizzes on the quiz page, they also provided your quizzes in the back of the library for you. So you don't need to build any quizzes at this point. You have everything you need. And that's the way I felt when I went in and started to designing the reading course years ago when I was in Townsend Press. They provided me not only with my test bank files in the back of the library, they also provided me the quizzes on the quiz page. So that was love for me. And I was able to start creating and building content and things like that and attaching the quizzes that I wanted. But the key to it all, you keep everything that they provide to you. Okay. You want to also you do that. So you never know when you may need to use it for next term or give practice tests and things like that. So you always keep that. So that was important for you to sit through that little moment to see. Now you know why it took so long, because of the type of information that particular course pack provided. So now what I'm going to do here, I guess you say after all that work, you're going to start a new quiz. So I'm going to go here to quiz. All right. I guess I'm just so programmed to do that. We're going to create a new quiz. Okay. So we're going to click on new quiz. And we're going to name it Training 101. So for the time being, I'm just going to save it and close it. Okay. But what I want to do is how you get started for best practices, as I mentioned before the training started, you want to pull your questions from the question library. Okay. So let's just say if I name this test bank, let me go here and edit it. If I go in here and edit this and I change the title to this, Training 101. Okay, this will make sense to you later. Okay, so I would build me a folder called Training 101. I will go into that folder. First, again, let me start over so I didn't confuse anyone. When you get started with your quizzes, you build your quizzes. And I need to get that Training 101 back at the top. $145. Need this to be up top for me. Okay, so if you know in your mind that you're going to have a quiz 1, a quiz 2, a quiz 3, 4, and 5, and up to 14 quizzes, you already know that. You can just start building them out like I just did here. You go to new quiz, and you just start like I did Training 101. You want the naming conventions to match, okay? So I just created my quiz there, the naming, and then it fell at the bottom. Then you would have to bring it back up because we have so many quizzes available, but you start naming them. But once you finish naming all 14 of your quizzes, 1 through 14, you go to your question library. And remember, I said for best practices, you start with your quizzes here. You want to make sure that your questions live in the library. So if I click on Training 101, there are my questions, right? Although I changed the name, I still have the naming conventions in the back of the course, which is in the library, and also on the quiz page. So they both match, right? You want to keep that for your development process. So if you look over here, you'll see the questions type. They have multiple choice, they have some true and false, and they have some written responses here, right? So let's just say if we wanted to build these quizzes, now that I'm inside of my folder in the question library, I arrive in my question library, I start building my folders the same way. Training 101, and then I go here and I say section. Section is just like a folder. And then I'll just start naming my quiz. Quiz 1, click save. Okay. You do the next one. It's probably fell down there at the bottom, I know. And then you start building quiz 2 and quiz 3 and quiz 4, and you have all your quizzes folders ready, because you want to make sure when you go here to start building and adding your types of questions, we'll go over that in a second. If I start this question right now and just click here without going inside of a folder, this question will hang outside of the question library area, which we don't want. We want to make certain for best practices and for organization and structure for you as a developer and the teacher, so you can locate your questions, your chapter questions. You create a folder for each one of your chapter questions you have, quiz questions you have. So you from quizzes 1 through 14, that's what you build out first, even though no questions may not live there, right? So for example, if I go down here to the bottom, I wish I could have reordered it. Order. Oh Lord, Jesus, it's gonna take forever. Ooh, this is gonna take forever. Okay, I guess I'm almost there. All right, I'm there. Just click save. All righty. So what I've done, like I said, you would create quiz 1, quiz 2, quiz 3, all the way down to quiz 14. Although the folder is empty, you still want to click on the folder and go start adding your questions inside of your folder. So the first question, go here, you would say true and false. And did I tell you the word section means a folder? That's all it is. So my question will be, and you would mark the correct answer, and then you would click save. All right. And you stay within this folder, quiz 1, and you keep building. And you build another question. And click true and save. And you keep building and building and building your questions. This is a lot. Then you go to the next type and you do multiple choice. And then you just select the correct answer and then you click save, right? So with your multiple choice questions and you start seeing that how you're building your questions, it tells you how many questions you have. It tells you the question types and the number of points that you've added. And it also tells you the date you've modified it, the last time you modified it, right? So now when I'm done editing, I will click done editing and go back to my library. And then I'm going to click inside the training folder just to look, right? Look at my questions. So now it's time to, when you build your questions inside your folder in the back of the library, now that you've created a folder with the same name as Training 101, you click on the training folder. That's just like you're clicking the edit feature. So when you click Training 101, you scroll down and you select add edit questions. This piece here tells you that this quiz is empty. Although I instructed you to build out your quizzes in both areas on the quiz page and also in the question library for naming convention purposes, because sometimes when you come back to this, you may start renaming them another name. So keep it consistent throughout the learning environment. I tell you to do that first, especially if you got to build the quizzes yourself. If you notice when the publisher pack imported, you saw how consistent it was, but they use 001, 002, 003. It's consistent naming conventions, right? So although I named this quiz 101, I knew that I have a folder in the question library where I can go in and randomize my questions. That's the whole purpose of me wanting my questions to live in the library, because I want to pull from the library also so that I can randomize them. There are certain questions that I may want this semester, and then there are questions that I may want to use next semester, or, there may only be summer semester questions that I use. So that's why I say it's always important to make certain that you keep all the material that they give you. Don't delete it once it's imported. Okay. So in the process of me showing you how to create your questions within your quiz that you built. So I'm going to click on my new quiz and I'm excited about it now because I named it. Now I know my quiz is empty. I don't have any instructions in here. So let me first get started by working from one feature to the next feature. Okay. I don't have any categories. I don't have to put it there for right now. It can be non-category until I finish. I typically don't worry about that piece until I got all my quizzes built out. So you're going to do add edit questions, because this is how you're going to pull your questions from the library and use the random feature. You will notice here in the question library, I need to show you this so you can get a bird's eye view of it. When you're in the question library, you will notice this quiz feature here where it says new. You see only section here, and then you start with your questions. So the sections, all you're doing is creating one of these, just the folder. Okay. Now, just put that on your brain. Keep it in your long-term memory for a moment. Now we're going back to that same quiz, and we're going to click on it. And we're going to scroll down and do add edit questions, because now we want our questions to drop within this training 101. So I'm going to go here, do add edit questions. So I'm going to the library. I'm depending on the library to give me what I need. So what I just showed you a few minutes ago in the library, you see the difference. You have section and you also have question pool. What question pool means is that you can create a random folder. So once you get to this point and your questions are all in your library and you click on your new quiz, once you're here in the library, you got everything you need here. You click on your new quiz. It's time for me now to pull all my questions. This is where it all begins. Click on this add edit. Go to this drop down where it says new and do question pool. We don't do another section because we already have a section in the library already that we need to go to pull from anyway. So that's already set. So we don't need any more of these. So we're going to go to question pool, And again, that means random. So we're going to name it same naming conventions. Training 101, right? Same everything, the spacing, the look, everything. And I believe they had maybe 30 or 40 quizzes, but I want to make this a 10 question quiz, right? And I want to make this 1 point apiece. Once I name it, the title, I address the number of questions that I want the students to answer. I put it here. I want them to answer 10 questions and then add number of points at 1. So it'll be 10 out of 10. Okay. So I will then do the third step is browse the question library. So when I browse the question library, I'm focused on one thing and one thing only, and that's this Training 101 folder. Okay. So I can collapse it, scroll down and look at the question type over here to the right, and I just start selecting. Just start selecting what I want. And it tells you each time you select a question, it lets you know. So basically, I want basically all the multiple choice and all the true and false. I don't want the written responses. Okay. So what would make it easier, I can easily just select quiz, collapse it, and just select Training 101, right? And then just go down to the bottom and remove anything associated with written response. Because you see here, there's another chapter 1 test medium, right? So I don't want anything associated with written response like you see over here to the right. So I just select all and then just start from the bottom and remove what I don't want, right? Not saying you can't use it, you can, but for right now, the type of quiz that I'm creating, I have 40 questions selected, which is a great pool of questions. So, but I don't want the written responses right now because that's just my preference as a teacher. So you add it, and then it tells you you have selected, the students will have a quiz that will have 10 questions that they would take out of 40 questions. That's a great pool of questions. So you click save. And this is why I like getting the publisher's material, because you see how much time it'll take you to build your quizzes. So now inside this random folder, Training 101, when I click on it, there are my questions and I click save. And then I do done editing. Now remember, we're not in the question library. We're inside this Training 101 quiz, and we went to the add edit feature. Remember, it's stated here, quiz empty. We went here to grab some questions from the library. How we did that, we created a random section. When I created the section, I opened up the folder. And when I opened the folder, I named it, and I said however many questions I wanted. And that's when I browsed for my questions, and I went to the Training 101 folder, and I pulled all the questions that I wanted from the library, right? And then I clicked save. And then once you click done editing, it takes you back to your properties tab where you started off by clicking on this add edit question tab, right? So now if you look closely, you'll see that all these random questions they're available inside my new quiz, Training 101. And if you look here, you'll see that it's 10 from 40, like it showed just a few minutes ago. So the students will have 10 questions out of 40. And then what you do, you turn this description on and you write a description and you give them detailed instructions on the quiz time, the quiz available time. And you also will tell them, how many minutes they have, any other instructions you want to provide in this quiz, you spell it out for them because they don't know what you're thinking. You know what you want, so you need to spell it out for them and tell them what it is and what you're expected of them. And then you take this same information and you click on introduction and you paste that same information here and you click save. The reason I said click the save tab is because you still need to address some other issues here. Okay, so let me go to my gradebook real quick so I can give you this quick example as well. And I need to create this for Mr. Zandy. I need to create a new 8th grade item. We went over this on Monday. So remember when I say when you start creating grade items, you want to make sure that you create the same assessments. So I'm going to click save. So it's there for me. So I go back to quizzes and I continue. So go back to my quiz just by clicking on it. Put my instructions and everything there. I click save. And then I go to restrictions. Okay. Remember, I told you these 3 are the most important tabs when you're building. This is an option here. These 2 we haven't started using yet, the objectives and the report. The objective and the report, we haven't started that. The submission views is just an option. These 3 are your main tabs you need to make sure you cover when you are creating your quizzes or setting your restrictions. So I want to turn this off, hide from user, and then I want to simply do a due date and a start date and turn the calendar on. So if I want to start it today, let's just say if I needed to start it this morning, and I will end it next week, and it will end at 11:59 p.m. So you scroll all the way down until you find 11:30 and you changed it to 59. Okay, make sure you put display in calendar. If you decide to use the due date, you just use it, make it the same. But typically when you use this piece, this is available at that time. It's due. And John will cover that piece tomorrow in the Dropbox tool. It has the same feature. Typically, I don't deviate from what I do with the end date and the start date. But I do use it in the event a student asks me a question and they say, can you allow me to take the quiz? So what I'll do is I'll go here to the end date and end it and change it to the 23rd. And then I can see that one student that I allowed to take the quiz at a later date. And then if I wanted to take 10 points off or 5 points off because they didn't have a good enough excuse, this is where you can use this piece. But it's still due. But if you turn this to 23rd, it will also allow you to allow the students to take tests beyond the due date, in other words. So once you have established your available and your end date, you select the display in calendar, you scroll down, and then now it's time for the timing. Okay, so if I know it takes me 30 minutes to take this 10 question quiz and with a 5 grace period, if it takes, let's just say if it takes me 30 minutes, then if it's a student with a disability, you want to give them an hour. Okay. In this particular case with the 10 questions, they should automatically know overall. I would give the students, if it takes me 30 minutes, I would probably give them 45 minutes. It all depends on your subject. Okay, so if it takes me 30, I'll give them 15 minutes extra. Okay, depending on the question type. And then I will give them the 5 grace period, and they will see a little clock that will be here to allow them to also pay attention to their timing. I think having the clock available is kind of stressful in a sense for them, but it's good so that they'll know. Here in this piece, the behavior limit piece, remember I spoke to you when I showed you the live quizzes in the other class. You always want to make sure you select this feature, prevent the student from making further changes, okay? Meaning they can't go beyond this end time, okay? The times that you set. And then the student with special access, you would click here, right? and you would still have the same dates, right? Turn the timer on, and let's just say the quiz was 30 minutes. Of course, I'll give this student 60, and then you keep going down until you find the student name. You find the student name and you click Add Special Access. And when you click Add Special Access, you go back and you check everything before you click Save. Okay, and remember, we have another tab to deal with, so I don't recommend you click Save and Close. Just go ahead and stay within these parameters and just click Save. Once you click Save, and you just go back down and double check everything to make sure you have all your settings appropriately. Then you go back up to the Assessment tab. When you go to the Assessment tab, you'll notice here the Export to Grades is shaded out. This won't come available until you make sure you find the appropriate grade item. So as soon as you click on the Assessment tab, you want to make sure you do the first three things. You want to allow it to grade upon completion. Then you want to locate your grade item in the gradebook. That's why it's important to build your gradebook first. So you click Training 101, and I always go back and I check. Oftentimes I get up when you're developing and creating things, you forget what you did, and you want to make sure everything match within the environment. And then you click Allow to Export to the gradebook, and then the students will see however many attempts you want to give them. You can set it at 2. The most I've seen was, like I told you earlier, unlimited 1 and 2. I have nothing past that. Okay. And then I keep this overall calculations at the highest. Okay. Regardless, especially if you're going to do 2 attempts, you want to make sure you keep it at the highest. Some I've seen where they've averaged, but based on my professional opinion, I think that the highest score should always be used to benefit the students. And then you just click Now, you click Save. Okay. Since this is an option, I do want to go ahead and cover it. So submission views. It already has a built-in default setting. So what you do is click on this link that says default setting. And when you click on it, you want to say that show questions, yes. You want to show only the questions they answered incorrectly. Okay. You don't want to, and then you go here and you want to show the question score out of. That's all you want to do, because when you start clicking back in here, it only gives you one options. Okay. So once you've done that, you just click Save. And then you do Save and Close. And now you have a well built out quiz. It has the due dates and the settings for you. It has your questions that you pull from the library by clicking on Add Edit. Okay. And then you have everything you need on each one of these 1, 2, 3, and 4 tabs. Okay. I believe I've covered everything. And then you allow your students to go ahead and take their quizzes. And once they take the quiz, you will see, like I showed you in the other class over here, you'll see 10 out of 10. And if you have 25 students, you'll see 25 out of 25. Okay. Oftentimes you have some quizzes that are hanging out there. And sometimes you'll see 13 out of 14. And what that means is that your student quiz is hung up. So what you would need to do, for example, in a live course, I don't believe I've had one that has done that. But what you would do in the event one of my students' quizzes get hung up in the learning environment, there's a place that you would go to locate that quiz. But you got to go to grades first. I'm sorry. Let me go back. How you would know it's hung up when you go here and go to grades. First, no, let me do this. First, you will know it's hung up if it says 18 out of 19. That will give you a clue that it's hung up somewhere. Okay, when you see all evens, that means everybody has taken their quiz and it's not hung up at all. Too bad I don't have a hung up student at the moment. But in the event that this was 18 out of 19.
I'm sorry, Kim?
Yes.
If you go to the star course.
Mm-hmm. You have one?
There's one there.
Okay. Thank you, Kendall.
Oh, no.
Leave my puppies alone. Okay. He done threw me off by bringing the puppies in. Okay. Quizzes. Okay. Is it this one? Which one is it, Kendall? This one, right?
It is, yes.
Okay. Thank you. I'm just click on it. I don't know why I do that. I click, 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 click. So I'm going to go here and do grades. And where is he hung up? Is it this one's, Kendall? Because typically I have a little person here.
No, you have to show everybody. Right now, it's just showing the people that have completed.
Right.
You need to do a search for all users or users
Yeah.
who haven't completed.
Because normally it's a little man here, and
Yeah.
when you click on it, it'll come up. So, okay, let me go to,
No, that was,
hold on.
sorry. Go to show search options. No.
Right here.
Yeah.
See, normally when it's great, yeah, you restrict to. So,
Yeah,
in
make
other
it all
words, Kindle,
user.
yeah, Kindle is right. You would go here, it's a little man that will be here, and you would go here to this feature where it says restrict to. You would click here and see users that are in progress. And then you would click on the search option on this little feature. And there it is, the little man. So this is what it looks like. So to go back over it so it won't confuse everybody, let me start over. And thank you, Kendall, for that. Typically, it would show me in the quiz, it'll show me, instead of 0 out of 2, it'll show me 1 out of 2 or 2 out of 2. So she has it where both of them has that setting. So we're going to go back here. And how we do that, you click on the hide search option. Normally, that's just restricted this area. Change that. And then what you do when your quiz is hung up, when it's 13 out of 14, you would click on this feature and it'll expand and you do restrict to. And what it'll do, you just go in and you look for the users that are still in progress, right? And then you click the search feature, and then this is what it looks like. Okay, so this allows me to go in as the student and submit the quiz for the students, meaning go in, look at where they left off or whatever. Oh, and then you click submit. It's cute, Kendall. Once you click submit and then you confirm the submissions for the student, that means I submitted the quiz for the student. So now when I go back to my page, I should see that one student's where, instead of it being what it was, 0 out of 2, now 2 out of 2. It should be 2 out of 2. But that's what it looks like when you search for a quiz that's out there and not available for you to view. When a student say, I submitted my quiz, then you would say, okay, and then automatically you would know because the numbers are not correct here. Okay.
I was naughty and I didn't set up my quiz correctly, so that's why you don't see the 2 out of 3 because it's not connected to the gradebook.
Gradebook, yeah. So, but that's okay. They still got the gist of what you look for. You got to look for that piece, but you can't look for it unless you go to grade. And when you go to grade, you would click on this search show, and the key is you need to search for the students that temps are in progress. They're still in progress because they never submitted it. Okay, and yes, Kendall is correct. If it was attached to the gradebook, yes, it would show that number 0 out of 2. It would have been 1 out of 2 or 2 out of 2. That showed you that I successfully found the student quiz that was in progress, and I submitted it on their behalf. And then what I would typically do is tell the student, yes, you should be able to see your quiz now. You never submitted your quiz and you earned a 75%. And then I basically leave it at that. Unless they question me and say, can they take it over? Then what I'll do is I'll reset the attempts. Typically, you can just do a special access, but what I do, I just turn the entire quiz on by changing the due dates, and it keeps me from not having to do so much within that change process. I just go in and change the dates by going to restrictions and turn the quiz back on. And if a lucky student finds that it's open as well, it's just open to everybody. And I just do it that way to benefit the students. So what I would do is change it from the 15th to the 16th, email the student back and say, your quiz is now available. Good luck and have a great week, or something like that. Okay. So, but thank you for that, Kendall. Normally I would have a student in my course that have hung out for a while, but they didn't. So now we have a few minutes to take a couple questions. One thing I can tell you about the quiz too, like I stated at the beginning of this session, is that it has a series of steps, and you must start in the question library. And then you work from the question library to the quiz page. And we work in the library simply for best practices, so we can pull and randomize our quizzes. And then when you see this random feature here, and when you see these words here, I forgot to click this to show you this. Put the number 1 in here and click apply. And when you see these purple lines and you click save, that means that this is one of the ways in which you protect the integrity of the quiz. So the students are only to see one question per page. Okay, you can give them the ability to move back and forth, but what I tell faculty, depending upon the content and the subject matter expert department, you would have you build your quizzes based on what they're going to see to become certified. So if it's just a general education course, yes, you can do your quizzes like this and make it one per page and prevent them from going backwards and forwards. But let's just say if a student is trying to get certified in nursing, and the NLN exam requires them to give them the ability to move back and forth. If we know that that's a fact, most of the nursing faculty will know that. So they would turn this on because they want to keep their quiz participation to pretty much be identical to the quiz that they're taking for certification, if that makes sense. So you can either turn this on or turn it off. When you turn this feature on, allow them to move back and forward. Oftentimes, a student will get to question number 7, and they'll say, "Oh, I saw something similar to that in number 2," and then that'll help them change their mind and go back and reset their questions. So that's a good feature. If you want to turn it on, you can. But when you put the number 1 in here and click apply, that's when it makes it randomized. And then that's when it also gives you the ability to protect the integrity of your quiz by allowing them to have one question per page. That's what that simply means. They're going to have one question per page. They should. But when we look at it, it doesn't look that way. Okay. Okay, so that was a lot to cover. I hope that I gave you guys some guidance in how you can compartmentalize the series of steps of doing the quiz. You would either build them yourself, and you would start in the question library, and then you go back to your quiz you built on the quiz page, and then you would go to add, edit, and pull those questions in by creating your random folder. Or you would do it simple like I did, and I imported the question test bank files from the publisher. So those are the 2 ways in which you can build your quiz and get your quizzes done in a timely manner. So now I'm going to open up for questions at this time. Yes.
It's Teresa and Stephanie Mitchell. We greatly appreciate your waiting until the end. Stephanie's got a question, and I'm just going to go ahead and read this because it's in the chat. It says, if we use other quiz systems such as Connect, do we have to create our quizzes in pause?
No. Why would you do that? No. If you're using an integration piece, and it's an online platform and they're working and doing all their assignments in theirs, no, you don't need to do that. This session was for faculty that has no content, that wants content, and either they can get it from the publisher or they can build the quizzes themselves. But if you already have a platform with quizzes where they migrate out to another platform, you just let them work in there. But the thing you need to make sure of is that those quiz can be populated over to your gradebook for a final average or just for quiz by quiz as they take them, because you would need to have those items available for your department chair at the end of the semester. Okay? So you will work with your publisher to do that.
Hi.
Hi.
Is question library visible to the students?
No, ma'am, it's not.
Oh,
They
okay.
they only see the quiz itself.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, let me show you. This is just an example, not full example, but an example. This is the student's view of the quizzes. This is how they see it. So if you ever took an online class, you know that you only saw your quizzes when you took your exam. So this is the student's view of the exam. You see no question library or anything. All they see is their quizzes, that they have 2 attempts on this one and they have 1 attempt on the rest. That's basically from a student's view. Okay.
Okay. And one more thing is that when I tried to, under the grade, when I clicked on the attempt of the students trying to look in what they did, that attempt 1 and attempt 2, whatever this, it was not blue in color. That means it couldn't lead me to the page or the thing which I was looking for in order to see their detailed report. What could be possibly the reason for the same?
I don't know. Maybe you missed it, but it's always there. It's in every course. So if you go and you click, if I click on quizzes and I click on a particular quiz, the key to it all, you need to click on grades. Once you click on grades and you click on their attempt, the quiz log is already there for you, and you can see all their attempts here by going here, but you can see what they've done throughout the quiz process here.
It's visible. That's how you have shown us, but it's strange. It wasn't coming when I tried earlier.
Oh, okay. Sometimes it depends on the system, and it also depends on the browser you're using within the management system. We always tell you to use either Firefox or Chrome. For the system to work effectively, the tools to work effectively in the browsers. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Next question.
Kim.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Who am I speaking? Who am I speaking with?
Hi, this is Phil Newsom. I had a quick question about the quizzes, or I call them tests, but obviously you want us to pull from the question library because that is a permanent part of the course. But it is possible to construct your own quiz, is it not?
Oh yeah, that's what I just showed you when I showed you this.
But you said I understood you to say that's not best practice.
Well, if you want to randomize them. If you want to randomize your quizzes, for example, there was a quiz that was just created, right? Let me show you this one. Let me get out of here. When I first imported a test bank file into my training course, I think it came in as chapter 1 or something. That was just a manually created quiz. Now let me just say this. You have the flexibility to create your quizzes the way you want to, but just know that if your quiz is accidentally deleted and this was your first time teaching it and you accidentally went into your semester courses by going up here to the course selector and you select on the wrong course, if your quiz is deleted, you got to redo the whole quiz over, especially if you spent time creating 50 questions for that one quiz. So you have to be careful about that. So let's go down here to the very bottom and let me show you what that quiz that you're speaking of. Like this quiz was the first import I did from the publisher. It didn't go in the library, but it has the questions there available to you. So this is what you're talking about. They're built within the quiz itself. So this is where you would start. You would name your your quiz, you would do add edit. When it said quiz is empty, you would go here and you would literally start going in and just start building your quiz. Once you create the folder that says section, you
Right.
would name that folder chapter 1,
Right.
which is title chapter 1, and click save. And once you built that chapter 1 folder, let me reorder it.
One other related question, if you build your own test, let's just say 50 questions, and you build it yourself, is there no way to randomize those questions to give to the
Yeah,
students?
you can shuffle them around. That shuffle piece is there if you want to use it.
Okay,
So for instance, let me go back to what I was saying so
sure.
it could be clear to all others. Once you have had a quiz imported in, the questions are already created for you, or you have already created the questions, you always start by building your section first, and then you go in your section, then you start building your questions by adding your true and false and multiple choice, right? It's no need to do random if you don't have questions in the library. This is null and void because when you go look for the questions for chapter 1, they won't be there because you never created them there. So you would just start with a true and false questions and just keep creating until you're done. When you're done editing, you close it out. See, and then these are your questions here, right? And you see this shuffle here. You can turn the shuffle questions on and click save, and it will shuffle the questions for you. Okay.
Okay, thank
Next
you.
question. You're welcome.
Hi, Kim. It's Cheryl Green. How are you?
I'm fine, sure. How are you?
I am well. I am well. There is a young lady, a student who was registered for the spring 2020 Introduction to Yoga class. And we came to the first few class periods, but then she began working with Mr. Stevens and I, and we figured out she is very well eligible for PLA, prior learning assessment credit. And she withdrew from the class since she really didn't need to take the class. She was just going to take a PLA exam to test out of the class. So I was going to just give her the same written test that I give the students in the Introduction to Yoga class, but now I need to build that test into pause. But now that she withdrew from the class, could she get some special access from you to be able to take that quiz?
She needs to be re-enrolled in the class, and that needs to be first worked out with the admissions office. Because once she drops, it's pretty much out of our hands. But for a backup, I would suggest you go ahead and build those questions out in the event that the student go through the process of being reinstated for whatever reason, and then it'll be available for her to take. And then moving forward, you will always have that piece available for any student. PLA for any student. So yeah, you can do that instead of where you saw me clicking on when I was in the library. I would prefer you start there. It'll be easier on you, Cheryl. You would build you a section, and then you would once you name your section PLA, we'll just call it that real quick and just click save. Once you do that, you would go into your PLA folder, and then you would start adding your written responses, right? Or your short answers, whatever it is you want, depending upon your point level. You can do written response or your short answer. Okay. And you would, once you start playing around with these two, you'll determine which one you want to use out of the two, or you may want to use both. Okay. And then once you go in here and all you do is click on it, and you would put the question in here and type it in here, and then you would click save. And then for the same thing, for the short answer, you would do the same thing. You would go in here, create your short answer, and type in your question. Okay, and click save. And then your questions will be there. And if you have it already in a Word document, it would be just as easy to copy and paste too. Okay. You can copy and paste into that. Yeah. You don't have to just type it all out. And then once you're done, you just click done editing. And then, like I taught you guys earlier, you build all your quizzes out first by naming conventions. Then you go to the library and do the same thing. Okay. So you have PLA1, PLA2, however you want to name them here, and then go here and name them. And then you start here building. Okay.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Makes great sense. And I do have them in a Word document, so thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, you're welcome. Next question.
Hello, Kim.
Hi.
Hi, this is Susan Mixon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I had a question about quizzes in the gradebook and how they were linked. You kind of talked about this a little bit on Monday, and I went back and tried to get some of the quizzes from the beginning of the semester. Like I had the master copy shell uploaded into my Pulse, right? Like everybody else did, and I have a whole bunch of quizzes for now in the gradebook from the beginning of the semester. And so I was wondering how to unlink them. I know you had said to go in and under assessment put grade item none, and I did that.
But did you click save?
Yes.
Okay. Go in your course right now and try it for me again.
Okay, so I'm going to the chapter 1 quiz, and I'm going under assessments, correct? The assessments tab?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And so I click save. Right now under automatic grade, it's not clicked, and under grade item, it says none.
Yeah. So what will happen? See this piece here, everybody? This is what she's talking about. You go here, and to remove it, unlink it from the gradebook, you would change it to none. So I'm going to try that, because remember, if I go to my gradebook, and students take the quizzes and it links to the gradebook, it's there, right? It's automatically there because this is the gradebook piece. So if I change it to none, so let's go look first, so we can get a great understanding of the whole process of what she's speaking of. I'm going to go to manage grades. And when I go to manage grades, you will see that the training 101 is connected to a quiz. How I know which quiz is connected to, I go here. That may be your problem too. You may be disconnecting the wrong quiz or something, but let's go here and click on edit. And it will actually tell you which quiz is connected to in the quiz tool. Okay, so now I know what quiz I need to unlink this quiz from. But then too, this is why it's important for the naming and conventions to be identical throughout the gradebook, throughout the quiz, throughout the question library, so it can be easy for you to detect where the quiz is. Okay, so we're going to do cancel, and then we're going to go. So now that we know that the Training 101 quiz is connected, what she's asking, she wants to be able to disconnect it. Okay, so we're going to go here, excuse me, to quizzes, and this is the piece that should have worked for her. I'm going to do edit, and we're going to click on assessments. And now what I'm going to do is disassociate Training 101 quiz from the gradebook and click save and close. So when she goes back to her gradebook, how she know that this quiz is not associated anymore, it would look like this. It would show a non-association. So the quiz tool is moved. So do you have this piece here? What do you have when you go back to your gradebook? Is it still linked to your gradebook?
Okay, I'll tell you what it looks like. So if I'm up under the managed quizzes and stuff like that, it has all my chapter quizzes listed. The chapter 1 quiz, which is the one that I said is no grade item, it doesn't have that little ribbon that means graded item. But if I go back to the actual grades, it still has that little question mark by it.
That's the quiz symbol. That's the symbol in the gradebook. So you want to see that. That's the symbol of the gradebook. That I don't want to say it means nothing, but it does. So for example, I'm going to switch back to standard view and show you everyone what you're speaking of. So she's speaking of, I have to go in the live course. This is what Miss Leslie is speaking of. It's in the integrates piece. Association with the, so we're going to go here. So see these students, you see these are discussions, right? I taught you in the gradebook, that's what that means. And over here, the quizzes, these are the question marks. They never disappear. It's just the symbolization of the tool itself. That symbolizes the quiz tool. The bubbles symbolizes the discussion tool. And then the little paper inside a folder represents the Dropbox folder. Okay.
Yeah, I see that. But even so, even in the actual gradebook where I am now, quiz 1 is still in the actual gradebook, and it still has an F for everybody, and it's still factoring into their overall points.
Okay, give me your CRN if you don't mind.
Okay. Let's see. What's the CRN for that course?
See right here, if you look here, this is the CRN right here, these 5 numbers.
Okay. Let me get my...
That's another thing I need to send out.
See, the CRN's not popping up on mine. All it has is... Oh, okay, let's see. 1 Yeah, 11754.
You sure you don't mind me showing this to the group?
No, that's fine.
Okay. And this is what a
Intro to Sociology.
Right here. Oh, it doesn't have the feature turned on. Let me look. You know why it's not turned on?
Okay, why?
Tell me why. I want you to tell me why. When I say when you go to the assessment tabs, what are the 3 first things you need to do?
I don't want it turned on, so.
You don't want it turned on?
Right, I want it out of the grade book. So I did that on purpose. I went back and said, unclick to allow grade and grade out of none. And so
you click save. So and now when you go to the grade book.
Yeah, my problem is that's from chapter 1, right? Before we were even doing all the online stuff, it just automatically got populated into my shell.
Okay, I see what you're talking about. I got to go fix some things. Ooh.
So I have a whole bunch of zeros for a bunch of grades that were from the first before spring break.
Okay, so one of the things we can do which is this one here or?
No, it's under the
quizzes. This one here.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
It's not associated at all.
Right.
But what you want to do though, you want to go here to edit.
Okay.
And you're going to scroll down and you're going to click exclude from final grade calculation. And then you're going to click save and close. Okay. Do you prefer your gradebook to look like this? Because I can convert it back to the standard view. This is a great example. As a matter of fact, I need to take some screenshots. I can send this out to faculty for instructions.
Sure, I don't even know what standard view means. So this is a spreadsheet, right?
Yeah, this gradebook. Let me just take me some screenshots real quick.
Okay.
And do this, to copy, to send out in an email. Okay. So do you want your gradebook to look like this? Where it's just, I'll tell you what, let me just turn it off. We're going to have a lot of issues with these here. Okay. Scheme. That's what you want it to look like?
That's what it had looked like before. Is that different?
Well, yeah, it's different. It doesn't have Fs.
Okay, yeah, I would like to look like that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because that's been something I've wondering how to get the actual numeric grade in there.
Yeah, you can do it both ways. Let me see. Make sure I do this. That's correct. You may want this, I don't know, but we'll see. Oh no, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to go here and do this. I'll go back and change it back. See how they see the points where they can see she has 312 out of 1225.
Mm-hmm.
You want that, or you want the percentage with it as well?
I guess percentage with it as well. So when I'm putting in final grades, I can see that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reason they're so low is because all the grades are in there. I think that person had.
Yeah, and what you want to do, you want to go in and exclude it. You go back to manage grade. Each item that you don't want, you can either because some students have taken, there may be a few that may have or may have not taken them. I don't know, but you want to start in your manage grades to do this, and you do know what this symbol means here, right?
Which one?
This means the little yeah, that means that their grade is not released. You can have it released now, or you can have it released later. Typically, as a student, we must always think and design like a student. If you weren't taking a class, wouldn't you want to see your progress, how you're progressing in the course? And the students would want to see that too. So I can show you how to turn that off. You just go here and go to edit. Oh, no, you don't go to edit. You go to a grade, inner grade, sorry. I don't mean to confuse you. You would go here and you would do inner grades. And right here in this select all, you would click this row, right? And you see right here where it says release.
Yes.
And then over here to the far right, you see release. You notice that nothing is checked there, right? So once I click this release, you will notice the check marks will appear in the gradebook. And then you just click save and close. And then just do a confirmation yes. And what happens is slow. There it is. See the little eyeball? It allows the students to see their grades.
Okay.
But I wouldn't recommend it until you finish reorganizing your gradebook. So I'm going to turn it back off.
All those zeros.
Yeah, it's going to freak them out. So so I'll go back and turn that off so that you'll know how to turn it back on. You just do it the reverse. You click in the box again and click on release. You'll notice that the check mark says went away and click save. And then you would have that image again in your gradebook that shows an eyeball with a slash through it.
Okay. And
it comes up.
I know it's after 3:30. I just had a quick question. I'm going to have to go through in every individual assignment that was copied over and do the exclude from final grade calculation, or is there a way to bulk edit and say quizzes 1 through 6 exclude?
If you let me go to the library and see. I don't want to mess up your grade book. You see, this is just a one-on-one session. You would go here to manage grades, yes, and exclude it from each and every one of your grade items that you're not using.
Okay.
Yeah, you would do that. And then you would, let me go to the bulk edit first and double check, because sometimes they have limited stuff and sometimes they have good stuff. Can exceed maximum. See, they have can exceed, but they don't have they don't have exclude. You don't notice that? They don't have exclude. Yes, you could have done it, but no, you got to go to each individual one that and exclude it from your final calculated grade. And then you need to go even further. Once you exclude it, you need to hide it from them. So, for example, what did we do? This chapter 1, go to edit. You click exclude, and then when you click save, then you're going to go back up here to restrictions, or you could have simply, now you can do that simply with each one of them. You can just click hide user here. Or you could have simply just went to the chapter 1 itself.
Right.
And just say hide from users.
Okay.
And then it will hide it. So you should have 2 symbols. And once you hover over the symbol, you will know. Now, this is your current semester course, correct? Not
Correct.
your, so with your master copy, you want to make sure that these settings are not there, because it'll give you a headache each and every time you have to turn them on and turn them off. But I understand what you're dealing with, trying to get this designed and organized for this semester. So just keep it that way. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Next question.
Kim, we've had Rhonda Graves asking questions in the chat. And Rhonda, I just wanted to reach out and see if you got your question answered all the way.
Yes, I'm reading it right now. Thank you.
You're welcome, Rhonda. Next question. Next question.
I guess I have a one if no one else does.
Okay.
I missed the first 2 sessions. I believe I've missed 2 already. Are these recorded?
Yeah, they're recorded, but although they're recorded, if you didn't attend them, are you needing them for something like your OTC to get a better understanding as a developer? What are you trying to do, Rhonda?
Yeah, I have to create online courses for summer.
Oh yeah, you need, yeah.
Oh,
You need to officially attend the interaction of it.
Oh,
Because
okay.
because we will do that next week.
Oh, okay.
As a
Okay.
developer, not next week, excuse me, next month in May. We'll do that in May. But you need to keep in mind that
because I have to have the classes made by May 15th. That's okay.
I guess you can listen to the recordings that we have. The unfortunate thing about the Gradebook, I think it was a half hour late or something. But if you can use the recordings to get you started, but my recommendation as a developer, you want to have on record that you attended a session. So yes, you do all you can for your course by the 15th, but make sure you attend the Gradebook and the content when we offer it in May. Okay.
I will.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next question. Well, if you guys don't have any questions, you just make certain that you go to the OTC course by clicking on the course selector, and it will say Online Teaching Certification Digital Learning. You click on it. Once you click on it, you scroll down page and you should see an announcement how to get started, and then you will see the previous OTC. Okay. Now, and then once you read these instructions, it will tell you where you need to go. You need to go here to the content area, and you can click on the OTC certification, and then you will have each tool. Like for instance, we did the question library and quizzing. So you would click here and look at the videos if you need more assistance. But for the most part, this is where you really want to be. You want to go to quizzes and click on you take these 2 quizzes today. the question library, and you also take the quizzing tool. If you find yourself noticing that something may have not been covered, the questions basically came from the videos as well, so you can go back and get a little refresher. Especially those of you that are developers. You want to get all the information you need to become a great developer of the course. Okay? But yeah, that's it. If you guys don't have any other questions.
This is Rose.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. This is what you may have been explaining, because I had put on the question, if you import material from another instructor's course, do the quizzes also import, or does everything import the way that instructor has it?
Yes, everything imports the way the instructor have it. If you, for example, Rose, let's just say if you using my online reading course, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything that's in that course will go over into your shell to teach.
Okay.
And then it's already set up. The dates should already be set up, and you will just teach the class. That's all you would do. And that happens only because if you don't have a content of your own,
Mm-hmm.
then you must use someone else online content. Otherwise, you'll be spinning your wheels trying to develop all those questions and things like that. Okay. So you would take advantage of that.
Okay. So like this semester, this is what you were explaining before, perhaps at the beginning of the course, we had already started. So we started at a certain point if we imported another instructor's course. So we could, if the instructor covered a unit that we didn't cover, we could hide that unit from the students. And if we hide it from the students, does that grade, even if that quiz is already there, does it still populate into the grade book?
It'll leave a 0 out there for them, and you would have to go in and do what I just did for the sociology teacher. Yeah, you would have to go in and exclude it and all that to do that.
Okay.
But the key is, let me ask you this, because I want to get some clarity. Are you guys using content from the online class, or are you using content from just maybe Margie's or Loretta's course?
This is a World Lit course that I put some content to make sure that I had enough content in my course, in my World Lit course. So I had already started. But the information that had been covered prior to spring break, I didn't use because I'd already given my quizzes and papers, and that part was in my pause. But when his course populated into mine in that material, I hid the material I was not going to use, but a student yesterday told me about his zeros, and when I looked, I said, so now that's what I was trying to figure out. Okay. That's what you were explaining about the sociology course, right?
Right. And let me ask you this: is this going to be the same situation for the summer, in the event this course is offered in the summer, or are you going to use the online version?
No, we had a meeting already. We all have to use the online versions of courses that are already established. If you teach the course this summer, we all have to put the online course material in the courses that are taught this summer.
Okay.
So
that's good.
So all of the English courses will be using already developed online course material.
Okay. That's good news for me and my team to know, because we wasn't a part of that meeting. We did hear that all the courses are going online, fully online, and we really understood that. But what we have been getting were requests from faculty that want this or that, and they're hybrid, and this and they're web assisted. So we're just trying to stay consistent with what senior staff want. Now, from my understanding, those that do not have an online class currently in the system, they must develop it in the summer and have it ready by May 15th, right? That's what I'm understanding. So that means at this point, every class needs to have an online master copy.
Right.
If it didn't, they should have submitted an intent to create.
Right. And I guess for this summer, because things are so tight and we
Right.
just changed the schedule to show that all classes will be online, then if there's a current online course, that instructor has to use that current online course.
Yes.
And any course that's not developed at this point couldn't be offered unless the course could get developed by the cutoff date, the May.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Yep. Okay, that's good for us. Isn't that good, Teresa?
Makes me happy. Makes me happy, Kim.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. Makes me too.
We'll use a fully online master copy. That's what I'm hearing.
Yep.
Yeah. That's what we had a meeting, coordinators meeting with English, and that's what
Told.
Dustin, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Glad to have you aboard to tell us that.
I need to be here too, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, you're good.
Okay.
Nice speaking with you. Stay well, okay?
Okay, too.
Next question. If you guys don't have any questions for me, please stay well, and I will see you tomorrow when John is presenting. Okay.
Okay,
You
thank
guys,
you.
you're welcome. You guys stay safe.
All right. Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You say thank you.
Bye, girls.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
You're welcome.
This is Rose. Bye. Bye,
I
Kendall.
know Teresa's happy, and Kendall,
Yeah.
and me, and so am I. John too, and Carla.
Marilyn Barbie is now exiting. Teresa Stillers is now exiting.
Kendall, you can stop the recording. I'm getting ready to leave and answer some of these emails.
Okay.
All right.
Toodles.
Bye-bye.